More trouble with electronics. There may be failures of the speed sensor mounted on the right front fist and forming a signal for the speedometer. In addition to the twitching of the arrow, in the version without the anti-lock braking system, the engine malfunction lamp will light up, and with it, the brakes. The signal is processed by different control units. In most cases, the defect is inherent in the variant without the said system. A 6-disc audio center requires careful loading of discs. If you rush, without waiting for the enabling inscription loading, on the display, the device will choke. Repair will cost at least 2,000 rubles, however, according to the observations of the masters, bitter experience does not teach, the same customers come back again. Keep an eye on your battery. On the Picanto, it is tiny, the larger one does not fit in the nest, so it is prone to discharge in traffic jams. Especially in the conditions of city night winter precipitation, when there is not enough energy from the generator operating at low speeds. You can put up with minor upholstery squeaks, it's worse that there is no engine temperature gauge. This car does not have a tachometer. However, in the version with the gun, it is not so necessary. You can put up with minor upholstery squeaks, it's worse that there is no engine temperature gauge. This car does not have a tachometer. However, in the version with the gun, it is not so necessary. Engine. Gasoline 12 valves of the Epsilon series are capable of presenting an unpleasant surprise. The timing sprocket key breaks the groove on the crankshaft toe, as a result of which the valve timing gets off and the engine stops pulling at best. On August 26, 2009, the defect was eliminated by strengthening the connection of mating parts, and a new crankshaft was supplied to the conveyor and for spare parts, with the diameters of the neck stages increased by 3 and 4 millimeters. But, if you change a part, you won't get off with it alone. In addition to the key, the changes affected the timing sprocket, the master disc, the auxiliary drive pulley, the central bolt, the oil pump drive gear, and the lower timing cover. Can you imagine the amount of work to replace and the total amount? The cause of the breakdown is often a careless replacement of the timing drive. It is worth overlooking the central bolt, and here is the result. The second reason is the deposition of resins on the valve guides, which increases the resistance to rotation of the camshaft. We advise you to regularly flush the nozzles without dismantling, because this also cleans the guides. Let's say the groove on the old crankshaft is intact, but the other parts mentioned above need to be replaced. Don't worry, they are supplied as spare parts along with new style parts. According to the regulations, the timing drive is changed after 90,000 kilometers, but there were cases when the belt broke earlier. Dealers recommend reducing the interval to 60 to 75,000 kilometers. With the same frequency, we adjust the clearances in the valve mechanism. The scheme is simple. A screw with a lock nut on the rocker arm. Only petrol versions went to the Russian market. It's a pity. The diesel delivered to Europe is not only more powerful and more economical, but also has a reputation for being reliable. Sometimes the motor's overheated, causing the head of the block to warp. Here the fault lies entirely with the owners, who do not monitor the cleanliness of the radiator. It is quite natural that, clogged with dirt, it is not able to maintain the normal temperature regime of the engine. The most common engine control unit error indicates a malfunction of the oxygen sensor, although the sensor itself has nothing to do with it. Interruptions in ignition due to a faulty spark plug are to blame. Excess fuel enters the converter, which is perceived by the sensor as a rich mixture, although the control unit reduces the opening time of the nozzles in order to save the converter, and until you replace the candles, the sensor will not have enough oxygen. According to the regulations, candles are supposed to be changed after 30,000 kilometers, but sometimes they barely reach 15,000. Transmission. Often, candles are also to blame for twitching when shifting gears on a car with automatic transmission, according to observations, in more than 80% of cases. And the owners, not understanding the problem, sit on the box and strive to quickly change the oil in it. The manufacturer recommends using SOJWS 3314. 45,034D00 according to the Kia classification, but it is impossible to buy it in some regions of Russia, even to order. At least that's what the owners are complaining about on an online forum. A letter with a request to sort it out also came to our editorial office. We advise you to check the oil level in the automatic transmission more often. The machine will thank you for your attentiveness with longevity and smooth operation. It turned out that the light did not converge on this oil. The Jatco Japanese automatic machine was originally designed for Nissan. so the original Nissan Oil KLE 22-00004 ATF Matic Fluid D is first of all suitable, a liter of which costs about 1800 rubles. Other substitutes are also acceptable. Ravenol 401483571439, 2200 rubles/L, or Ravenol 40148357143111, cheapest, 460 rubles/L. You can also use the original General Motors Oil 93742563, 1750 rubles/L. All of them, in fact, are analogs of the same SOJWS 3314. But pouring Dextran 3 is strongly not recommended. We draw the attention of not only owners, but also regional dealers to this. Although you can understand the latter, you won't go thousands of kilometers to the capital to buy oil. Rather, it is the task of representing the company. Almost all automatic transmission breakdowns are somehow related to unskilled maintenance and careless operation. If you regularly monitor the oil and thermal conditions of the unit, as well as the health of the ignition and engine power systems, there will most likely be no problems. Failure of the output shaft speed sensor does not count. The defect is not massive. By the way, the right drive shaft of cars manufactured in February 2010 was replaced under warranty due to a processing defect in the area of /U200B/U200B inner CV joint. But there were few such cars, about 1,600 pieces, including the European market. With tight switching of the manual gearbox, we adjust the drive. The clutch serves an average of 100 to 120,000 kilometers. If by this time the pedal has become cottony, change the clutch fork and guide sleeve at the same time. Tires were changed on some cars from 2009 to 2010 under warranty. Not necessarily all 5, sometimes a couple on the same axle, since only in small batches of native Kumho tires was a core defect detected. Suspension. Many front suspension parts are borrowed from heavier models of the Kia Hyundai concern, so they last quite a long time. For example, ball bearings, more than 150,000 kilometers. In the front suspension, strut bearings deserve attention. If you hear a creak and feel crushing when you turn the steering wheel, not only replace the supports, but also install new style dust covers. With the latter, the node lives without trouble. Usually, by 60,000 kilometers, the right steering tip starts to knock. Stabilizer struts sometimes go under 120,000 kilometers, and bushings, 60,000. Ball bearings and silent blocks are quite tenacious. Steering. On some cars manufactured before August 2007, the power steering gurgled and snorted unpleasantly. The problem was solved simply. A jet was inserted into the return line hose. It is only important that the hole be with neat chamfers. Only cars with power steering were supplied to the Russian market and to European countries with Euro. It is useful to know that knocks in the rail with an electric booster are eliminated by replacing the spring that presses the sliding cracker. This applies to cars up to 2007 of release. Brake system. The front brake pads serve 30,000 kilometers, the rear, drum only, about 60,000. It happens that the front discs warp. The groove does not always help. According to natural wear, they are enough for 2 or 3 sets of pads. Since 2006, they changed the labyrinth of the brake reservoir cap, which connects the reservoir cavity with the atmosphere. Through the former, the liquid quickly became contaminated.